What's up?
Your hair looks so bad.
My hair looks so bad.
It really doesn't. It really doesn't.
It doesn't, but the camera, it has this angle. It's pointy. It's like pointy.
Look, from my angle, it's not like that. That's even a little bit.
That's why I'm facing you the way I am. Yeah. Well, hello, everyone. This is Who's Funding This Podcast? And I am your host, Doug Terranova.
And I'm your other host, Maddie Bird.
This is a podcast where two somewhat skeptical comedians, 1.5 skeptical comedians, look at different conspiracy theories, and that's it. That's the end of that sentence.
So I was doing research for my next one, and there's literally, not to spoil it, I won't spoil anything, but it's one that I feel like I should not have gone into and just immediately been like, that is spooky, isn't it?
Oh, no. It's never failed on this podcast that something that you adamantly believe, I 100% do not believe.
You know, I believe in balance, yin and yang.
Yes. Yeah. Though here's what I'm afraid of is there's going to be something that I 100% believe, and then that balance is gone because you also 100%
But it also
believe
hasn't happened yet. Feel like the closest we've gotten, would you agree, is Disney Frozen?
I would say Disney Frozen or the Titanic fire thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say, and we were both on board, I think, for both of those.
I was less on board for Disney Frozen,
yeah.
which is what makes me try to give myself the benefit of the doubt, which you should never give me.
No, that's true. It's true.
that like, if you were to full bore believe in something, I might not believe it. Maybe the reason I believe everything is because I know you don't.
Yeah, and we have to balance each other out.
Yeah.
Or who knows what would happen. If you guys haven't listened to those episodes or watched them, you can't watch them. But if you haven't listened to them, go back and listen. They're in season 1. Very good.
That's season 1?
Yeah.
This is season 2.
Season 2.
I feel very proud of us for having a season 2.
You know, me too, honestly. And, to be honest, it's an effort. Right now, season 2 is an effort season.
Season 2 is an effort season, but it is a fun season. I feel like season 1 was falling down the rabbit hole, and season 2 we are in Wonderland.
We are just sitting comfortably inside Wonderland. Yeah, I agree. And it's an effort season not because of anything with the show. It's just our lives are really busy right now.
Yes, very frantic.
Yes, between job, comedy shows. Being married, not to each other.
Not this time, anyway.
Not this time.
Yeah.
Maybe next time. We'll see.
If Bobby and Caroline die simultaneously.
We'll just marry each other for the tax.
That's what I'm thinking. Although neither of us are the one, I'm going to assume in your case, but neither of us are the one in our relationship who have the health insurance.
I mean... Yeah.
I'm married for the health insurance.
Yeah. You know? Yeah, that's true.
We'll figure it out.
That's okay. We're comedians.
Yeah.
Among other things. So, this episode.
Tell me.
We talked about what this episode was going to be a lot, and every time...
It's different.
It's something different. Because here's the thing, is I said at the top of this season that I was going to do less dense, in-depth things.
Yeah.
And then I text you like last week, and I was like, that's just not who I am as a person.
I'm so happy that we are here because, 1, I love who you are as a person, and 2, I think I'm in it for the deep ones.
Yeah.
You used the word cerebral one time, and I think that's an excellent word for it. And I like it.
I never would have thought that I could describe myself as cerebral. I can't, but the episodes that I put together.
I think that they make an argument that you could describe yourself as a cerebral kind of person.
That doesn't jive with my image. But today we're talking about a conspiracy theory, a group of conspiracy theories surrounding Russia's biggest unsolved mystery.
I feel like there's got to be a lot of those.
Oh my god. Well, yeah. This one is called the Dyatlov Pass incident.
Dyatlov Pass incident.
Now, tell me, any knowledge of this?
Never even one time have I heard of Dyatlov.
Not Dyatlov, not Dyatlov's Pass.
No.
Not conspiracy theories. Not Russia.
No, this is the first time hearing of Russia.
If any of this. So Russia, big country.
So here's what I know, is that Russia is the biggest country by land mass. However, it is one of the smaller countries by population.
Yes.
Partly because of its own doing.
Yeah, partly because they picked a dumb spot for a fucking country.
Right, and then they killed a bunch of their own citizens.
I forgot.
Like a lot of times.
I forgot how the killing.
Yeah.
I forgot about the murder.
Do you know, actually, Doug, did you know about the killing?
I did know, and then I forgot about the killing. The killing. Yeah.
I would say, other than that, I am not well enough versed in anything to do with Russia. I know that Putin's there.
Putin is there. Putin and the bear he sometimes rides.
Yeah, right? And I think that maybe he's a no bad dude, but also I don't know enough about it to really what is propaganda from the U.S. government and what is the reality of Russia.
Truly, right? Yeah. Because everything we know probably has gone through some sort of propaganda filter when it comes to Russia.
Yeah.
Everything I know about Russia stems from the movie Anastasia. Which, have you watched Anastasia?
Of course I've watched Anastasia.
Okay, have you watched it recently?
No.
Okay, so...
But I have listened to a TikTok singer who sings every so often, and now, of course, I can't remember the name, but the major song or something that she sings. Yeah. I've listened to that.
The, song with the grandma or whatever? I don't know.
So, yeah.
But, first of all, when they're doing the auditions, and the one lady is like, "Grandmama, it is me." Anastasia. Grandmama lives rent free in my head.
I can see why.
But also, the beginning of that movie is very propaganda, which probably wasn't too far from the truth. But it was just ever since communism, we are sad.
Yeah, everything here is the worst.
And part of why it didn't work out there. Was they didn't feed people enough. That's kind of what I was talking about with the killing. Yeah, there was a lot of food shortages and things like that. We're not talking about any of that. Okay. But in a weird way, we are.
But in a weird way, we are.
That is exactly what we're talking about.
That's our next podcast.
In a weird way.
We
are. ... I love that. It's going to be right there with New World Order Consulting
Firm. Yes, 100%. I also had a dream that we had another podcast, and I 100% stand by it was a good idea, and I cannot remember what it was.
Oh, that's too bad. Because our live show, Comedy Roulette, was because of a dream I had.
Nice.
The whole idea came to me in a dream, and I woke up and I was like, that's good.
How did I not know that?
I think I told you.
Oh.
I don't know. Maybe I didn't. But I had a dream.
That's the worst of me.
Where we had audience submit topics, and then the comics would randomly do it. I woke up and I was like, hot damn, that's a show.
I got out of my bed and I said, let's
go. I called Maddie. Call Maddie.
And then I trotted over in my Charlie Chaplin mustache.
Anytime I say I'm calling Maddie, I'm literally going outside and just shouting your name till you show up.
Oh, yeah. It works, I'm sure.
It does, every time. Anyways, the Dyatlov Pass incident.
Right.
So the Dyatlov Pass is like a mountain pass.
Okay.
Think of it. Which got its name from this incident. So, in February of 1959, 9 college students on a backpacking trip died in strange and mysterious circumstances.
Okay.
In such a way that baffled experts and the general public for decades. And we're going to get into that. But the leader of the group, his name was Dyatlov, and so it's sort of colloquially known as the Dyatlov Pass.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. But to understand kind of the setting, we're going to have to talk about the USSR in the 1950s.
Okay. I figured that we would eventually.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like, I just got to be dense. This is... Because I'm like, how do I talk about this without talking about the political climate of the USSR?
I mean, it plays a key role.
So in 1953, Stalin, leader of the USSR, died.
Yeah.
Stalin was a very prohibitive leader. He didn't allow for a lot of culture, poetry, books, eating, fun, smiling, general amusement. He just didn't allow his very little personal freedom. You could not move even around the USSR very easily. And then he died. Mm-hmm. And Nikita Khrushchev.
Khrushchev.
I have eliminated the need to say so many Russian names in this. Like, do you want to know the names of the people in the group? Too fucking bad. Because I'm not telling you.
Sources on request.
Yeah, I can type it out for you.
Yeah.
But Nikita Khrushchev. God damn it. Mm-hmm. Nikita Khrushchev.
Nikita Khrushchev.
Nikita Khrushchev took over as leader of the USSR. Mm-hmm. And when he took over, he brought with him a more lenient, like a relatively lenient government compared to Stalin.
Okay.
And a social era which became known as the Khrushchev thaw, because Stalin, icy,
was real rigid,
and then Khrushchev let the USSR thaw out a little bit.
I see.
During the thaw, there was a bunch of social, cultural, and economic transformations in the USSR.
Okay.
A lot of things that had once been censored, as far as like poetry, songs, and books, became uncensored. However, don't think that there weren't still censored books, because there were, and songs and ideas.
But you could write a book.
Yes, you could write a book. You could do poetry and songs. You couldn't travel internationally as a Soviet citizen, but you could now travel a lot more freely throughout the USSR.
Okay, fun. Love it.
And things like recreational time gained a little bit more of an importance, as well as college studies and things like that. So, like, the particular factor that kind of influences this story is kind of the freedom to move about the country. So whenever the thaw happened, there's this huge interest in backpacking, especially in like the Ural Mountains and in Siberia.
Okay.
Because, I mean, I guess if you lived in a world with no personal freedoms and suddenly you could do some things, I don't know, you'd probably backpack in the mountains. Yeah, I guess. But it was a huge deal. You'd have groups of like up to 20 or 30 people go on weeks-long backpacking trips. And this actually was something that the USSR even encouraged, because they were going out into these kind of wildernessy areas and mapping it out. Mm-hmm. So it's helping the USSR kind of map out the absolute wasteland that is Siberia. That brings us to our group of hikers. Mm-hmm. So Igor Dyatlov is a 23-year-old engineering student. He was the leader and very experienced hiker.
Okay.
He brought together a total of 8 men and 2 women.
Okay.
Though I did say 9 hikers. One turned back early on in the trip because
survived
because he turned back due to like chronic illness type stuff.
Deals.
Yeah. So all of these students, including the one who had the chronic illness, they were avid hikers. They actually had their grade 2 hiking certification, which is only 3. And so you're a very, very experienced hiker. You have to log a number of kilometers to even be considered. You have to do at certain like times of year and certain like quote unquote dangerous levels, different danger levels. The danger levels.
Right. And then you have to pass you have to beat a boss and all that kind of stuff.
You have to beat a boss. You have to collect enough coins.
Yep.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
But they all were very experienced hikers. That's what you can take from this. Mm-hmm. They were all actually working to get their grade 3 hiker certification, which is
so
the
they're
tippy
on
topsies.
their way, yeah.
Yeah. And that would allow them to lead hiking organizations and to teach backpacking and all this stuff. Is a very big deal if that's what you're into. And this was actually, this trip that they were planning to go on was the last bit that they needed. So when they got back, they would get their grade 3 certification.
Okay, so they're like, so this is like legit. It's not like you just got your grade 2 and you're being ambitious. Like,
no,
you legit do this.
Yeah, they are like experienced.
Yeah.
And Dyatlov is, even in his little like hiking buddy circles at the college, one of the most experienced people there. People like look to him for advice on backpacking and
like
camping
what oats to
and
eat and stuff like that.
I guess so. Yeah. How overnight do your oats need to be? Was a big question back then.
Are we doing instant? What flavors? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. But so very, very good hikers. I cannot stress that enough. And Dyatlov actually was known for chasing dangerous situations and taking unnecessarily hard routes.
Yeah, well, he was a 23-year-old and male.
Exactly. Honestly, yeah, this is such a college-age thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's such an early 20s thing to be like, I'm immortal.
Right, like almost at grade 3, like, you're allowed to get the tippy top
of,
like, experience.
And
so you're like, fuck it, I could do whatever.
This is before your body starts really betraying you.
Their knees don't even hurt.
Yeah, so I get it. I like squatted down to talk to somebody the other day, and I was like, ow, 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 ow. So I can't relate to any of this.
I can't relate to being tall.
That's fair. Yeah, having to squat down to talk to someone.
I've never had to do that.
But yeah, so this trip was kind of the epitome of Dyatlov's more like daredevil-y side.
Okay.
It was supposed to take somewhere around 19 days, even though Dyatlov had told his friends he thought it might take longer.
Okay.
And it was classified as a Category 3, which is dangerous.
Okay.
And it was also going into the Ural Mountains, which is in Siberia, in the middle of winter. Which,
feels like a bad idea.
Yeah, I don't think I even need to say it's considered very dangerous.
Yeah.
And so they were all like, yeah, you know what I want to do? I want to leave the comfort of my fucking home. To go out into the fucking wilderness for 19 plus days.
In like the mountain winter.
In fucking winter. Yeah. In January and February.
That's the worst winter months.
It's the worst winter months. Mm-hmm. I will never understand. I will never... I don't even applaud them. I think that is so stupid.
I truly would be so afraid I would not do that.
Yeah. But they have to like register their routes and stuff, you know, safety things and whatnot. And so they got their route book back and approved on January 23rd, and they left that same day.
Okay.
Over the next few days, they took trains, trucks, and various means of transportation to kind of get far enough out to actually do their hike. It took 4 days of that. And they ended up at this village called Vizhal. Mm-hmm. That's how you pronounce it?
Yeah, I've been there before.
Yeah, Vizhal. Yeah, mm-hmm. a little village of indigenous Russian people.
I love that.
Yeah. I learned... Okay, so I read a whole book about this because I found it very interesting.
Yeah.
Not about the indigenous Russian people, but about Dyatlov Pass. And it mentioned the Russian people, the indigenous Russian people. They're white.
Okay, I'm not surprised.
No.
Well, I guess I am a little bit surprised so we're looking at like there's lesser sun then? Yeah,
I mean, they're like more to the northern parts and the Siberian parts and things like that. So I imagine not a heck of a lot of sun. Mm-hmm. But it's just not something you think of when you think of indigenous people.
I suppose not. Not.
Yeah. Anyway, so they went to this village, and it was their last stop in civilization. The next morning, the guy with the chronic illness, his name is Yuri Yudin, had to turn back due to pain.
Poor guy.
He had like a rheumatoid arthritis kind of situation.
Oh, yeah.
And apparently he had said in interviews, like, he felt like on the days leading up, like, they had to, like, ride in the back of a truck for, like, 8 hours, and he's like, just the bumping around was bad. Then he slept on the floor that night. The next day he woke up and he's like, there's just no way.
Yeah.
And you kind of had to be pretty honest about it, because after that is, like, an intense hike.
Yeah.
So you can't just be like, it's fine.
Yeah, you can't muscle through it if you can't. Yeah.
So, the group apparently was very sad. They all really like Yuri. But he turned back. They said goodbye to him, left that village, and that is the last time any of them were seen alive.
But have you seen Yuri on Ice?
I have, actually. I think it's the same Yuri. I don't know if you know this about Yuri on Ice, but he suffered from rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah. That's part of what makes the show so endearing.
Yeah.
And because
all of that.
Yeah, but he's still an athlete.
Ice skating.
Yeah, exactly.
And gay. Do you know how hard it is to be gay with rheumatoid arthritis?
It's just so difficult.
It's so hard.
Yeah. That's what all of the gay books say.
Yeah. I've read them all. Mm-hmm. And just about every damn near one of them will mention rheumatoid arthritis.
It's just, and sometimes if they don't full mention it, it's a footnote at the bottom, you know?
Yeah. Also, I want to take this time to introduce our extra co-hosts, the cicadas.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You guys have been listening to them a lot this season.
That's what they sound like.
Yeah, there is a tree directly above us, so yeah.
I actually really like the sound of cicadas, except for when I'm trying to engineer the sound for our episodes.
Yeah, because like for us right now, it's not that big a deal, probably.
No, but later,
it'll be a big deal.
It's like they're in the room. So, after they left that village, last time any of them were seen alive, over the next few days, we can actually piece together their experience from their diary entries and photographs from the cameras that were found at their campsite.
Okay.
So they spent the next few days long hikes every day, cross-country skiing kind of deal.
Okay.
Through a lot of it, trying to make it through like this forest to this mountain that they're trying to climb. They're trying to get to this Otorten mountain, which in the local indigenous language means dead mountain. Not because of anything sinister. It just had no life on it. It was dead. It was too cold. There was nothing. It's a bunch of rock.
Right. My favorite.
But so they seemed to be in pretty positive spirits. Lots of like joking around and things like that. Happy pictures, smiles everywhere. And then on January 31st, they made it to the edge of their highland area. So they got through the woods.
Okay.
And prepared to stop their cross-country skiing and begin climbing. Okay. So they made themselves a little temporary storage shelter and left any belongings they wouldn't need during the climb, with the thought of they're going to come back. So it's 2 days total, a day out, a day back. And then they'll get that stuff and head back.
So I just want to say that we were already not on board, but when you started this, you said hike. And so far we have hitchhiked. So far we have cross-country skied. And now we're climbing.
Yes.
I am even less interested.
Yeah, their version of hiking is even more exhausting than hiking.
They're literally climbing a mountain.
Yeah. Couldn't be me. Couldn't be me.
I think if you asked me at 23, maybe.
Oh, I would do it.
Yeah.
I used to go backpacking.
Yeah.
And I liked it. And I liked camping and hiking. Now I really like inside.
That's fair. I like outside, but I don't know that I would do this. I don't want my survival tested.
And like, I know that, okay, you're supposed to be like, oh my God, the outdoors are so amazing. And fine, that's cool. I like inside.
Oh my God, the outdoors.
Oh my God, the outdoors.
It's so amazing.
So amazing. It's so beautiful with the trees and the grass and the sky.
It makes me feel alive. I do think outside is like that, but like for me specifically when it's warm.
Yeah. Yeah, it has to be warm. In the snow, go fuck yourself.
Absolutely not.
Go fuck yourself.
That's what Inside is for.
That's actually, and this is, for those of you who don't know my husband, the most surprising thing he's ever said to me is, this was a couple years ago, he's like, maybe we should go winter camping sometime. And I was like, Bobby, you don't even like regular camping.
Why would we go when it's worse?
I'm a bad person if I'm out in the cold. Like,
Yeah.
I become a terrible human being.
Yeah.
Why would you want that? Why would you want to subject yourself to that?
And what was his response?
It could be romantic. It absolutely wouldn't be.
No.
It would be a trial
Right.
in our marriage.
This is my question. If you wanted it to be so cold that you have to snuggle together for body heat, I don't know, just crank up the AC. You could do that inside.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I think 2 winters ago, our heater went out, and it was very cold. And it was
There you go.
30
That's
degrees in our house.
Winter camping.
And immediately we hated everything. So and that was still inside. That wasn't in a tent.
Yeah. There were no elements in the house other than the cold.
Yeah. The thing is too, like, I was in Boy Scouts.
Uh-huh.
It was a terrible time. I hated it. I hated the Boy Scouts.
I've not heard good things.
It's just, listen, okay, can I rag on the Boy Scouts for a second without getting canceled?
Yeah, I mean, you made full eye contact with the
Yeah.
audience.
Fuck the Boy Scouts. Full of fucking nerds.
Yep.
That all have emotional control issues. That's not the point. The point is, we had to do winter camping, and I know inside the sleeping bag, good. Outside the sleeping bag,
Very bad.
And so, as an adult who can make my own choices, I would not leave the sleeping bag.
Yep.
I would just stay there until it was time to put the tent away, and then you could just roll me out of it, put me in the car,
Right.
and I'm still in the sleeping bag.
After the car's already been on for like 20 minutes.
And then I will slowly make my way out of the sleeping bag. That's what will happen. That's not what they did, though. So they made their little storage shelter on January 31st.
Okay.
February 1st, they began to move through the pass that would take them to a Torton Mountain.
Okay.
And it seemed like, to people in the know, that they were planning to make it over the pass and make camp on the opposite side.
Okay.
So that way they could just easily go up O'Torton Mountain the next day and then back down and back to...
So the goal was over the pass.
So the
and then
pass,
just to come
like,
back.
it's like on the way to the mountain.
Okay.
And it's like kind of up the mountain a little bit. And then, yeah, to go over the pass, up the mountain, down the mountain, back.
Got it. Okay.
But there was a bunch of storms and low visibility. And we know that too because the very last picture they ever took, it was just like they were going into a gray wall. Like, you couldn't see anything. But they apparently lost direction and deviated west a little bit.
Uh-oh.
And so they chose to camp on the side of this incline.
This is exactly what happened to Amelia Earhart.
This is verbatim. Yeah. You know how she was camping?
And Russian.
And Russian. These are 2 things that we knew. Yeah.
Exactly the same.
So Dyatlov's friends assumed that he probably didn't want to lose the altitude that they gained and go down to the tree line. And he probably assessed that it was a safe enough incline. It seemed like it was too... Apparently, if it's an incline less than 30 degrees, you're not at a big risk for an avalanche.
Okay.
So he probably kind of figured that out, figured it's safe enough, the winds aren't going to get on, whatever. Good enough for the night. Hold on. I'm good at things. But sometime in that night, something inexplicable happened. And it resulted in the death of all 9 hikers.
What?
So it wasn't until like 20 days later that the search and rescue operation began. Because they weren't supposed to be back until like February 12th at the earliest.
Okay.
And then it was February 20th, so 19 days after, I guess, that the families were like, we need to start a search. Which, getting the government to search, I guess, was a whole deal. But So February 20th, they started the rescue operation. And February 26th, the search and rescue volunteers found the campsite. And now this is where it's weird. This is why it's such a big mystery.
Okay.
So their tent was still standing.
Okay.
And inside of the tent, all of their belongings, including their clothes and their shoes, were neatly organized. Their shoes were all lined up on one tent wall.
Interesting.
There was a slash in the backside of the tent, but later forensic experts said that the slash was made from a knife inside the tent, as though somebody was trying to get out. And all their clothes and shoes were inside, which means they left not adequately dressed for the middle of the night in February in Siberia. And this is not something that normal, sane people would do anyway, but also you add their level of experience as hikers.
Yeah.
It's odd, to say the least. They found the first few bodies within a few days of finding the campsite. They were kind of all out in pairs in different directions, within like a kilometer to a mile away from the tent. But they had all kind of, it looks like, fled in different direction, maybe in pairs, or there's one group of 3. And it took until May to find the last 3 bodies.
Okay.
Who were in a ravine a little further ways out. They had to wait so they didn't find it until the snow melted a little bit in the ravine. The most 6 out of the 9 hikers, I believe, died from hypothermia. Okay. Which is fair. It's a very dangerously cold, even if you are properly dressed, even if it's not the middle of the night. Yeah. It's still dangerously cold. And so out there, half dressed, no shoes on, you're probably not going to last very long. But the 3 in the ravine, they had died of blunt force trauma to the head and ribs.
I don't like that.
And one of the girls who was in the ravine, her tongue was gone.
I don't like that.
On top of that, they all had above normal amounts of radiation on their clothes.
What the fuck?
Yep. Yeah, they sent someone out with a Geiger counter. And apparently all of their clothes had a bunch of radiation, and a lot of their gear had a bunch of radiation, more than what you'd get from just ambient radiation, I guess.
Even like inside of the tent, like where they left their stuff?
I think so. Definitely the clothes that were on them. Okay. But they said their gear too, so I imagine that's the stuff that was still in the tent.
I am spooked.
Yeah. So all of that makes this strange. Yeah. And over the next few decades, there's a lot of investigations, a lot of studies from different governments, from different non-government organizations, and obviously a ton of conspiracy theories. It is, like I said, Russia's biggest unsolved mystery. And the thing is, even we're going to get into a couple things that might be plausible, a couple things that aren't. But the thing is, I don't think that they will ever be able to definitively prove something that happened in 1959. Yeah. So that's kind of the trouble they're running into. Okay. But yeah, so that is the background on what happened. The Dyatlov Pass incident.
Freaked out.
Yeah, it's so strange.
Like you said, obviously they all died. So when you said they're all dead, not surprised. Yeah. But everything after that, I never would have even thought about radiation.
No. Well, I think so. The radiation's weird, but the biggest mystery is they all left in the middle of the night. Something would have had to spook them so bad. Yeah. That they all left without their shoes on, without their outer layers of clothing on.
So it's some getting away from something potentially.
Yeah, it seems like they would have to have been spooked. Yeah. Now, I will say, how bad would you feel being the friend that turned back? Like, you'd have to have some sort of survivor's skill.
Survival skill for sure.
Oh, yeah. But also, there are a million conspiracy theories about this.
Yeah.
I'm not even scratching the surface.
Oh my.
But, so I'll say some of the ones that I'm not covering. Russian missile testing.
Okay.
Aliens.
I was kind of hoping it would be aliens.
Aliens. So there wasn't a lot of good info on it. We'll do a little mini thing on the aliens.
Okay.
Based on what I know.
Okay.
So people who were in the area around the same time reported weird lights in the sky. That's
usually aliens.
Yeah. So from two different independent sources.
Okay.
Said that there's strange lights, the typical thing, like moving around in ways that weren't possible for anything that we know about.
Orbs of light.
That kind of thing. Yeah. So there's a theory that maybe they saw the orbs of light and it freaked them out so bad that they all fled, or that there was an alien encounter, which also accounts for the radiation. And why they would also flee, I guess. But, so they said that was actually probably weapons testing. And it turns out that the night that both groups saw those lights was later on in February. So it would have been after these people died.
Okay.
But that's the alien thing, which is kind of cool. There's so many. There's time. I really wanted to include this, but it was so wackadoodle that I couldn't. That they fell into a time vortex and aged and died. But here's the thing. We found their bodies, and they were the same age.
The same age. And time vortex does not equal blunt force trauma.
No.
I'm no expert on time vortexes, but in my experience.
You ever go camping, and then you get into a time vortex, and it scares you so bad you just run?
Yeah, at least once.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
When I go winter camping specifically.
Yeah, winter camping in Siberia.
Which we've both said we're huge fans of doing.
We actually are going to do that this coming winter.
For the pod.
For the podcast.
Yeah.
For who's funding this podcast?
It'll be a live event, actually.
Live event. We are going to Dyatlov Pass, and we're going to see if we can also die.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's our goal.
Just right after we get canceled. Just kidding. There would never be a reason to cancel us.
Who would even try? No one. No one. So I learned through Chapel Run, you get enough fans, and eventually some of them turn on you.
Eventually.
Anyways.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of conspiracy theories. One of the crazier ones is actually our first one.
Okay.
Conspiracy theory number 1. A Yeti killed the Dyatlov group.
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
No, anything needed?
Explain to me this. How do you get a Yeti? Dump him in a vat of radioactive material.
You Godzilla him.
Yeah. There you go. Now you've beta gammaed him into now you have Yeti.
Oh yeah.
And that's gonna leave. Radiation doesn't just like hang out. That affects other stuff.
Yeah. It like infects things.
Right.
Yeah.
Blunt force trauma. What do you know about Yetis? Strong,
big hands. Like to pound things.
Right.
Though that's a harmful stereotype.
It's actually quite reductive.
I have some Yeti friends. So this theory is so stupid. I'm just gonna put it out there. Sometimes I try not to influence what you're gonna think.
Okay, but let me put my white woman shawl on.
Okay.
I'm cold.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm hot.
It's 104 degrees.
Yeah, outside. It's currently 89 degrees and clear according to my computer.
Yeah. There's no reason for this, but I'm chilled to the bone with this theory.
This how scary it is.
Yes.
Plus, this is a winter story.
Right.
That makes it colder.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the theory points to 2 pieces of evidence. The first is, so the group made, just at the campground one morning, a satirical newspaper for their group.
Okay.
And one of the fake headlines they created was Science. In recent years, there has been a heated debate about the existence of the Yeti. Latest evidence indicates that the Yeti lives in the northern Urals near Mount Otorten. Now, this was most likely an inside joke about how hairy and smelly some of the guys were, because they're like college students, and I think it's cute that they made that at all.
I agree.
I think that there is a spirit here of enjoyment that I cannot reach. Because
like this is made by a group of people who are feeling good about.
I don't think they have mental illness.
I see.
Or at least not the one I have. Because none of this sounds appealing. I think the like satirical newspaper, like, that's fun and cute in theory, but they wrote it all out.
Yeah.
That's work.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, what else are you gonna do? This is the equivalent. This is the college equivalent of, like, campfire stories.
And if they're hanging around and they can't leave for whatever reason, it's not time to leave, I don't know, then, yeah, okay.
I would be game. I would do it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, nothing else to do.
Right.
But, while this is obviously just poking fun, it caught the attention of cryptozoologists, of course. They even made a documentary about this theory for the Discovery Channel.
Oh my god.
In 2014.
Amazing.
Yeah. Conspiracy theorists also point to, and we love to see it, a grainy, blurry picture that the group took of a humanoid shape, which of course is out of focus, and it's in the tree line off the path. I think I have the picture here. I will show you.
Show it to me.
Yes. I'm almost there. I'm almost at the picture. That's a real person. Okay.
Look, that's a humanoid.
So, yeah, in this picture, I'll describe it for those of you listening. It is like maybe 15, 20 feet away. A human-looking figure standing. It's really out of focus, so you can't see much. But likely this is another one of the hikers.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. There's even, it looks like they're wearing clothes.
Yeah. It looks like somebody who has like a ski mask on.
Yeah.
And is standing, and the camera feels like it's intentionally focused, because it is focused. It's just focused in the foreground.
Yeah.
So whoever is taking the photo,
he probably walked into the photo,
or they did it for their newspaper.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not a good theory. So theorists claim that a Yeti, according to what we have seen from their satirical newspaper and this picture, likely followed them once they got to the pass and frightened them so badly in the middle of the night that they fled their campsite. And then, I don't know, probably deaded the ones in the ravine.
Yeah.
That's my addition, I'm assuming.
I mean, I feel like that it has to go without saying.
I haven't watched this documentary.
Unless it was another Yeti in the ravine.
Oh.
There were two Yetis.
So one was driving them out. Yeah. The other was waiting.
Yeah, it's a classic double Yeti situation.
Double Yeti situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, there could have even been three Yetis. But one was pretty lazy.
There could have been. Yeah. I mean, this is prey-predator dynamics 101.
Yeah, he's flushing out the prey.
Yeah.
Where the other one is waiting.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, they didn't eat maybe the tongue. Maybe they ate the tongue.
Just one. They were full. Yetis are notoriously little appetite.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. They split it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's this whole thing.
Not today, anyway. I've eaten a lot already.
So there's not much evidence to support this theory, much less the existence of Yetis.
Right.
On top of that, there were no non-human footprints found around the campsite. And even after a certain amount of time, and even if Yetis had some preternatural way of sneaking, there, we would think, be some sort of disturbance.
Yeah.
In the ground and the trees.
Oh, but you forgot that Yetis can float. Like Marceline, the vampire queen?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly like that.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I did forget that. Also, okay, well, hold on. Well, no, I might as well tell you my also against it. I already told you a lot of it. It stands to reason that if the group saw and were frightened by a Yeti, that they would not be joking about it and writing a satirical newspaper article about it. Mm-hmm. They would be scared for their lives.
Right.
They wouldn't go from, Yeti, ha ha ha, how fun, to fleeing their campsite in the middle of the night. Unless they were like, Yetis are friendly, and then the Yeti's like, I'm not friendly.
But then nobody thought to like write in their diary like, we have found a Yeti.
Yeah, the only thing that they wrote down was a satirical newspaper headline.
Look, is it would that be kind of great if like somebody made like a fantastical scientific discovery and only wrote jokes?
They just made a meme about it.
Can you imagine the like Darwin's natural selection or like a natural history fucking only jokes?
Just fucking ragged on evolution. I feel like if either one of us were to discover a cryptid, it's probably what we do.
It's going to be 30% jokes at the top. And nothing else.
I would be like, I have a new 30-minute long set, actually, that I can do just off of this cryptid that I met. Mm-hmm. I did go Bigfoot hunting one time.
I knew this about you, and I've been wanting to talk about it on the podcast. I figured it would come up.
Yeah, it did just now. Yeah.
Because I wasn't sure if you were going to do the Bigfoot episode.
I'm going to eventually. Yeah. I just haven't. It's never felt right.
Fair enough.
But no, I went my senior year of high school in spring break. That's how I spent my spring break.
Yeah.
It was with some friends, and we made a little mockumentary.
That's really cute. Can I see the mockumentary?
I wish. I don't know what happened to it.
Oh, that sucks.
But I think we were pretty fucking funny. We even had fake sponsorships from Jack Link's Big Beef Jerky because, they had the Sasquatch thing going on. And now, we did see something weird. But I am not fully ready to say, oh, that was Bigfoot. Because that's insane.
Yeah.
But
it's
anyway.
It's not time yet.
Yeah. We did make jokes about that when so I guess.
Listen.
Yeah.
Kids and something that shouldn't be real that is now real, jokes. Mm-hmm. But also, if you felt threatened, you would have left.
We did.
So you
almost immediately. So between the locals who I think were going to deliverance us and something scary in the middle of the night, we were like, what if we just leave?
Yeah.
What if we just go home now?
Now, instead of later.
And we did. Mm-hmm. We did. So.
See, because I feel like if they were making jokes about it at the beginning, before ascending, they would have just left. Yeah.
I think, if I saw a Yeti, I'm assuming, same thing. Mm-hmm. I would be like, this was fun. We can say we went to the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
No one's here to tell us to disprove this except the Yeti. Let's go.
Yeah. Let's leave and maybe tell other people about the Yeti.
The Yeti was there to track their progress for the Russian government.
Maybe the Yeti was there to really make sure that they had grade 3 level hiking chops.
Yeah. Did you know the Yeti actually had his grade 3 certification?
It was the same. They were doing the same pass.
They were doing the same pass. Yeah, the Yeti made it. So, good for the Yeti.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's our first conspiracy. Yeti killed them.
Okay, I'm going to go 0 out of 10 on that one.
For very obvious reasons.
And because it's not, it's funny if we say, haha, Yeti, but it's not funny because 9 people died tragically.
Yeah, but it's so long ago, we don't have to care about that.
So... So that's why it's not even 0.1. Because I gave, Charles and, other ones, the vampire a non-zero answer because it would be fun if they were real.
So here's the twist. I'm going to say 1 out of 10.
Okay.
And the one is because Yetis might be real.
Yetis could be.
I feel like we really flip-flopped here. Mm-hmm. But Siberian wilderness is so still uninhabited by people. It could be out there. Like, forever before somebody brought back a picture of a gorilla, they'd be like, there's these wild beastmen in Africa, and it was gorillas.
That's it. I mean, that's a good point. Also, that photo, there is a human thing in the photo.
It's probably a human.
It's probably a.
Yeah, no.
But it's a large human.
Like, it's a 1 out of 10 because Yetis might be real, but almost it should be a 0 out of 10 because the evidence is so laughable. So, probably 0.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point there, right? Because, like...
I guess, yeah, if you're asking me if the conspiracy theory are Yetis real?
Then it's a 1 out of 10.
1 out of 10. Did a Yeti do this? 0 out of 10.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah. Okay, conspiracy theory number 2. Another good one. Some of the group were embedded KGB agents on a secret mission that went awry. So this theory kind of latches onto the radiation thing.
Okay.
Some theorists believe that 3 of the hikers, and even specific ones,
yeah,
were KGB agents, secret to everyone, including the rest of the group.
But did they know about each other?
They knew about each other.
Okay.
And they were all on a mission together. But they infiltrated this group as their cover. Or, like, embedded themselves in this group as their cover. Their supposed mission was to root out an American CIA cell in the Ural Mountains. They were to deliver radioactive materials to the CIA agents, pretending to cooperate with them, hence the radiation, and then take pictures of the agents to turn over to the KGB. Theorists then think that things went sideways, and the CIA agents fucking killed them. This, in the minds of conspiracy theorists, explains not only the radiation found on the hikers, but why the Russian officials had someone out searching with a Geiger counter. Also, the group was taking a lot of pictures, but they have to, for their certification, take pictures to prove that they're doing the proper things, I don't know.
What the proper things
like the
are.
hiking things that are proper.
Right.
Yeah,
I know about those.
Yeah, they had to photograph that.
And probably specifically Yetis.
Yeah, so one of the things to get your grade 3 is to find a Yeti. It's very, very hard to do.
Very. Okay, so listen, off the bat, what I have been wanting to ask this entire episode is, why was there ever a Geiger counter? So this is right away holding some weight.
So that's a great question. But so this is the part where I tell you the more mundane reason why there was radiation.
Okay.
It's a letdown.
No.
So one of the hikers worked as an engineer at a nuclear facility and worked as part of an effort to clean up a nuclear storage disaster that contaminated 23,000 kilometers of land. And even with all the safety precautions, he had so much ambient radiation that soaked up in his clothes that his roommate and his families also had high levels of radiation. So it's likely
that just being in close proximity
to him gave them high enough radiation that it would have shown on a Geiger counter.
And if they knew that he was employed there, then you might send somebody with a Geiger counter up there.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah. That is the idea. Also, of course, the families of the deceased strongly did not support this theory. And there is no more evidence.
Interesting. Look, this one I'm going to have to give a non-zero answer to.
Okay.
Even still.
Okay.
Even still, because you could say... Because the radiation is odd. It
is odd. And I don't know how satisfying of an answer it is that this would have infected all 8 other hikers. Mm-hmm. Infected, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's sort of like infected.
I mean, yeah, like levels would have been like present on.
Yeah. And the Geiger counter thing is still kind of weird. Especially, honestly, the backdrop that I'm not presenting very well is the absolute shitty job the Russian government did with the search and rescue operation. Their college actually took over, and the climbing groups from the college took over, and that's who found the bodies.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Which is almost points in favor of this.
Yeah.
Except for that wouldn't be points for, because then you're letting other people potentially find out your secrets.
I guess, yeah. If the Russian government was trying to keep a lid on this, they would be dragging their feet to do a search and rescue operation.
Right. Like, they would be, feeding lines, finding things, covering it, like, not necessarily covering it up, but just being the first to know.
They did work hard to cover it up, too. That's another... There's so many weird things about this, I feel like it's hard to cover them all. Now, part of this, you got to be in the mindset of what the USSR was like, which is a very paranoid country, government. But when they found all the bodies, they originally didn't even want to let them go back to the city that they lived in to be buried and have a funeral, because they didn't want to raise a lot of attention towards this. So they wanted to just bury them somewhere else.
I mean, I suppose, from, just a publicity standpoint, it doesn't look great.
It doesn't look great. And then they... so the first batch of people, because they found one group, and then, 10 days later, they found another group. The first batch of people, they sent them back eventually to have their funeral, and so many people showed up. It's a huge deal. Thousands of people were on the funeral procession route. So that the next time, the Russian officials actually forbade that people outside the family show up to this funeral, because they didn't like all the attention that it was getting.
Interesting.
Which feels suspicious on its head, but you have to remember, this Cold War USSR.
Yeah.
They cared very much about the perception of the government.
Yeah.
They cared very much about... I think, especially following Stalin's regime, they cared very much about dissidents rising up. And so they didn't want this to be a spark, I think, that ignited trouble.
Okay.
Or
I could see that.
Or three of them were embedded KGB agents.
And they didn't want people to get too close in order to find out that information.
Yeah.
I'm still going to give it a non-zero answer, but I'm going to give it a 1 out of 10.
Yeah. I think for this specifically, again, I think it's a question of what we're asking. Are we asking that the Russian government could have been involved?
Yeah.
I'm going to give that a pretty high. I'm going to get maybe 3 or 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
If this theory is correct, based on the evidence given, this is one of those weird ones, kind of like Project Bluebeam, that got so specific out of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
That they had radioactive materials that they were giving to American CIA, and then they tried to double cross the CIA, and the CIA found out and then killed them. And there's no evidence of any of this. So 0 out of 10, I think, on that one for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm gonna stay at 1 out of 10, because I do think, I don't know. I mean, let me hear is there another one?
There's 2 more, actually.
Okay.
And these are more theory than conspiracy.
Okay.
And it's actually interesting. I didn't think about this till I was putting this together. This has some callbacks for us. Conspiracy theory number 3. Infrasound caused the hikers to panic and flee their tents. So you'll remember from Project Bluebeam, they were going to use infrasound to do stuff.
To manipulate the
to do the mind control, yeah.
Yes.
Now, they're not saying that this is human-made infrasound in this scenario. But yeah, we've discussed infrasound as sound waves that are so low, a lot of it's beyond our natural hearing abilities, and can cause physiological symptoms like nausea, discomfort, pressure, and it causes psychological symptoms like disorientation, anxiety, panic, and an overwhelming sense of dread.
Very interesting. Also very interesting because when we talked about Havana syndrome,
yeah.
Which was somehow... Because there were people who experienced Havana syndrome in Cuba, right?
Yeah,
there was
for the
there was
most
a
part.
connection to
Russia.
Yeah.
And actually, it came out not long after that episode that there is some evidence of sonic weaponry from Russia involved with Havana syndrome.
So then, if there was weapons testing happening, that they can, with the light show that happened later on in February,
Yeah.
and then now we know that there was obviously an attempt at sonic weaponry.
Mm-hmm.
That gives me some.
Which you'll remember, maybe from Havana syndrome, in the 50s, the U.S. Embassy in Moscow was being targeted with microwave emissions for surveillance purposes. However, so none of that really affects this because we're talking about naturally made infrasound.
Ah, okay.
But I like where your head's at. So geological experts and atmospheric experts studied the slope that they were on. Mm-hmm. And they came to believe that it's possible that like a, quote, perfect storm of circumstances could have caused the wind to hit the dome of the mountain and the angle of the slope in just such a way that it created small vortexes of air that put out infrasound waves. And they said that it's called like a vortex street, I guess. So just basically a vortex is going down in lines. And they said it's very probable that it could have happened on either side of the tint, causing infrasound to come from either side of the tint. And also the actual sound that they'd hear would be something like a freight train. And the wind would be whipping things around. And then on top of that, they have infrasound that is giving them this panic and overwhelming sense of dread that may be built off each other. Is the theory that they just
kind of went crazy.
Yeah, decided they had to flee the tent for whatever reason. And then once they were out and then out of that vortex street, it was too dark and too stormy for them to figure out where their campsite was. And actually, two of the pairs of people, there's obvious signs of them trying to start a fire. Which meant that they probably recognized they cannot get back to their campsite and they just need to figure out a way to survive the night. But the NOAA, which is the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, put out a study which agreed that this was the most likely cause.
That's fucking crazy.
Crazy. This is actually even more crazy after this, but in like a cool crazy kind of way. But that's conspiracy theory number 3.
I don't like the way that this feels like The Matrix with all of our previous episodes culminating.
I know.
All of your specific previous episodes culminating into this
one.
Why
is infrasound happening to me so much?
Well, here's the thing. If I'm going to put my skeptical hat on, it's probably that all of these have similar aspects to them that drew you to them to look at them in the first place.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not necessarily sinister.
It's very intriguing mystery, except for Project Bluebeam, where the only mystery is why people believe it.
Yeah.
Don't believe Project Bluebeam. It's stupid. But yeah, so that's our third theory.
I don't know, man. 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. I actually would give it 7 out of 10. I think it's very likely. I don't think anything... Unfortunately, I don't think by the nature of our show we're ever going to get to 10 out of 10 on anything.
Yeah.
But it makes sense.
I mean, if we have multiple groups who have done multiple studies we know infrasound is a thing. Mm-hmm. We know that it can have this kind of effect. This is the thing, and I'm still kind of sitting at 7 out of 10. I might even pull it back down a second because here's my question. We still have not answered the blunt force trauma of the whole thing.
So there is a couple theories out there that it was caused by falling down the ravine.
Ah, okay.
Because they were found at the bottom of a ravine. And the tongue thing...
She bit her tongue out.
Or they were there for months. That maybe some bacteria or fungi ate out the tongue. I don't know.
Okay.
But that is the blunt force trauma of it all. If it's not that is the strangest part. I guess another guy died technically from blunt trauma, but he had very apparently tried to climb a tree.
And fallen out of the
And
tree.
fell, yeah. That was one of the groups that was trying to start a fire. So they think that he was trying to get better
Firewood.
wood for the fire.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think what's intriguing about this is there's so many elements that it's hard for everything to get answered by any one thing. Because there's still the radiation, and I'm not super satisfied with the official answer.
Yeah, because it could be, but I suppose that could be part of your perfect storm, right? So now you're exposed to radiation because this one guy works in a nuclear power plant doing a nuclear cleanup, and then on top of that, you're exposed to this sound that is causing mass panic, and 9 people is enough people to have crazy amount.
Yeah, it would just feed off each other so quickly.
Bad. But then if we split into groups, that's the kind of the thing too that's kind of that I find kind of interesting is that they split the group of 9 split.
Yeah.
But everybody was found in some kind of a pair.
Yeah, well, so I think if I had to guess, and this is totally nothing, I'm just thinking experienced hikers, they're all running out into the night, they're scared, but maybe even then they're like trying to make sure they're not going anywhere alone.
Yeah, like so kind of subconsciously.
Yeah, even though they're running in different directions, maybe they're like, oh, I see so-and-so, I'm going to follow
them.
Yeah.
It's also interesting because if we were to say, because here's my question kind of about the infrasound, is how quickly do the symptoms of that panic dissipate? Because you have this very like spooky event, so you have something where you have people behaving irrationally and they cut themselves out of the tent, ran out of the tent, and then very quickly after that we're like seem to come back to a sense that's like logic, that's like, okay, shit, we can't get back to, but we still have to survive, so we need to build a fire and like go into that survival mode.
If I had to think about just like, so when you have adrenaline rush, it lasts for a little bit. But with this, you take away the stimuli that's causing the psychological effect. It would start to diminish right away, even if it's still going for a little while, I'd imagine. And nothing is more of a slap in the face than extreme cold to really get your mind going.
Fair enough.
So maybe, I don't know.
That is just so... I think I'm going to stay at 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I think so too. Now, some of the counter arguments for that are like, well, all 9 people had the same reaction. That's really the big one. Nobody is finding like a scientific fault with this.
Yeah.
But they're like, well, how did all 9 people go into panic? But I think that it's that mob mentality of group panic. It happened so fast, and it was probably, you put yourself in their shoes, unquestionably terrifying. You know, it sounds in a way that they've never experienced. And then this feeling of dread, it probably kind of vibrated the earth a little bit. It's probably very scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very spooky. Real spooky. Just like the tunnels.
The tunnels underneath the Denver International Airport.
Yep.
Which could be connected. We still don't know where the tunnels end up.
Could go to the Dyatlov Pass.
They could.
Yeah, absolutely. Could. I have one more theory, and it's interesting.
Okay.
Conspiracy theory number 4, avalanche.
Okay.
So this was a theory that happened early on, but was kind of dismissed for a couple reasons. One, I told you that the incline was considered not steep enough of an angle for avalanches to happen. 2, the campsite was in perfect order. And there was no signs of an avalanche around. It's 2 different reports. One in 2019 gave the idea of snow slab theory, which is basically a different type of avalanche caused by snowfall where an entire slab kind of moves down.
Okay. Kind of like a landslide.
Yeah, like a landslide. Now, that was kind of quickly disproven, but it started other people thinking. And in 2021, geotechnical engineer Alexander Puzrin and Johan Guam of the snow avalanche simulation theory in simulation laboratory in Zurich kind of tackled the question of why an avalanche wouldn't have happened well into the night and why there would be no evidence of it. Mm-hmm. So they found the slope was actually not too shallow for an avalanche. It was closer to 30 degrees. It just didn't seem that way because of the snow buildup. So it could be that Dyatlov looked at this and was like, it's totally fine, but it actually wasn't. Now, there is this type of wind called katabatic winds.
There's a lot of wind happening here on this mountain. I don't trust mountains no more.
So, yeah, right? I never did.
Blowing smoke up a lot of people's asses.
Yeah. With the wind. But so katabatic winds are winds that blow down hills as gravity pulls higher density air downward and then lets the lower density air rise.
Well, gravity will do that.
Yeah, it kind of pulls things down. There's one thing I know about gravity.
Just like Yetis, it'll pull stuff down.
It'll pull stuff down.
Yeah.
Yetis pull major pussy, too.
Yeah, they do.
That's true.
Yeah, they do, Doug.
Yeah, they're fucking. They fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one thing.
Have you ever met one Yeti who doesn't fuck?
If there's two things I know about Yetis, they pull things down.
Yeah.
They fuck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So...
You heard it here first.
So, basically what happened is there's some destabilization when extra snow piled on this destabilized layer that kind of led to the idea of the slab avalanche.
Okay.
And then you had these katabatic winds that... so the snow would have accumulated just enough to cause the slab to roll downhill. The katabatic winds would have caused it, I don't understand, to happen in such a way, basically, that it would not disturb the campsite, but it would be an avalanche that would have been so jarring enough that they would have thought, this is an avalanche, we have to get out of the tent as fast as we can.
Okay.
Because worst case scenario, buried in an avalanche.
Right.
Second worst case scenario, what actually happened.
Right.
So they ran simulations, and they found that the avalanche might have only been about 16 feet of snow and ice. So it's just enough to fill the little pit that they dug out for their tent. It was covered by fresh snowfall before the search parties discovered the tent 26 days later. So it would have kind of just disappeared without a trace. Now, here's the kind of crazy thing. So the movie Frozen.
Everything always comes back to me. It's freaking me out!
So the computer snow animation impressed Puzrin and Guam so much that they connected with the Disney snow effects specialists who shared their code. So they used that code and changed it to simulate the impacts of a small avalanche on the human body. They applied General Motors seatbelt safety cadaver crash test results. These tests revealed that different scenarios about heavy snow impact on the hikers as they were in the tent. They found that the cadaver test results most resembled the tent setup, where the hikers lay their skis under the tent to create a rigid platform to sleep on. This allowed the team to run scenarios about how the tent and the hikers would have held up under even a smaller avalanche. And so basically, an avalanche would not crush the tent, but would scare them. And Frozen helped them figure that out.
Oh my god. Now...
And this also could have at least given them some severe injuries, like their blunt force trauma. But, and it does, I guess, it does take time for injuries like that to kill someone. But they were like the furthest away.
Yeah.
They were like a mile away. I have a hard time believing that you had a fatal head injury and went a mile in the snow.
I mean, I can fall back on you fall down a ravine.
Yeah.
Because if you keep falling, I guess you could make it a mile.
And like a lot of people are hopping onto this theory, but to me, it's the aspect of like they used Frozen's computer code that's so kind of cool about it. I don't think that this holds up any more than the infrasound does, honestly.
I mean, it's just another method of simulation, right? I mean, because that's what Frozen is animated with computer animation, which at this point is a pretty sophisticated kind of animation, and and Disney has employed a lot of real physics.
Yeah, that's true.
To create movement.
Yeah.
And so I'm not at all surprised by that.
Yeah.
And would say that even holds water to me, but I'm also just I'm still left with, even after listening to all four, none of them, even if all four combined, don't answer all of my questions.
That's the problem, right?
Because it's some of them go to answer the Geiger counter one.
Yeah.
But then it's this one doesn't necessarily, it doesn't play a role. It's just then explained away with the fact that this guy works at this place. But also here's the thing that I find kind of crazy. And I guess it's not unrealistic. But the tent was in such perfect condition.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It was in perfect condition. They also were able to cut their way out and go out the front door.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like an avalanche happened.
Or it would have just started and then they would have immediately left. But then it still would have because you said they found all their shoes were in a row.
Yeah.
All of their clothes were folded.
Mm-hmm. Meals were half eaten.
Yeah. So it's they were...
Yeah.
Something happened and they immediately took off.
They also so they had a gas stove that they would light at night. They never lit their gas stove that night. Or is it a little wood burning stove? I think. It was a wood burning stove. Yeah, because they had to get wood for it. That's how I know. But yeah, so there's just nothing to hold on to all of the facts.
Yeah. Also, I don't know. I mean, I'm still even kind of torn with the whole cutting yourself out of the tent.
Yeah. Why? Why would they do that? Because they also would know. Again, they're super experienced for their age hikers.
Yeah.
They also would have a plan, I would think, for avalanches.
You would think.
They're going to the Siberian wilderness in the Ural Mountains in February. You would think it would at least cross their mind.
And I get that there was a panic, but if you're that experienced and you have a plan for avalanches, why wouldn't the group stick together?
Why wouldn't the group stick together? Why?
Unless they got separated.
It just doesn't make sense that they would be so panicked, too, that they would leave without putting any sort of layers on. I get that avalanche happens fast, but it just... That's where it gets me. I think somebody would have had a cool head about it if it... I could see infrasound psychologically affecting them.
Yeah.
And causing them to act irrational. But outside of that, somebody would have had to have had a cool enough head to be wait, hold on, we'll die out there.
Yeah.
And, it was enough that they slashed their tent, which they would have known that they needed for the next several days to survive.
Right.
I don't know.
There's a lot of layers to this. There's a lot of layers. There's a lot of layers in so far as the Russian government, as we can explain it away as public perception. We can do all of that, but doing a bad job.
Yeah.
Of rescuing. We can do. It's also very interesting too because it seems like once people started to look, they weren't hard to find.
Yeah.
So they didn't make it.
Relatively. The three in the ravine were hard to find.
Yeah.
But the rest of them, no.
It's also, the three in the ravine also leads me to a question of, because we're saying, okay, they fell, which is perfectly plausible. Mm-hmm. Except, I've been hitting my mic the entire time.
Oh, I hit it, 10 times. Don't worry.
But three of them fell down a ravine. Mm-hmm. So I'll have they all fell? I suppose it could have been the avalanche is happening.
Yeah.
And they're all kind of standing close enough together. It takes them.
But the ravine was a mile away, was the other thing. So they were a mile away from their campsite. No shoes. not enough of their outer layers on.
How did they make it a mile and nobody else made it a mile?
Yeah, even a different version of that question. Why did they go so far when other people stopped? Like,
yeah.
Because it could be that other people were like, okay, we need to stop. We need to stop. We need to try to start a fire. We need to try to get warm. But why wouldn't these three? Why would they go further?
That's my question. I'm still like, because like if it was anything, it's like these three that died in a way that is very different than how the other 6 died.
Yeah.
Also leaves a lot of this open.
Yeah, it does. They're literally outliers. Like, they were way far away from everything. They did not. They're the ones that didn't die of hypothermia, except for the one guy who fell out of a tree. Someone's tongue was missing.
Which is crazy.
It's crazy. I don't like it.
I don't like it either.
But yeah, I don't. Okay, wait. What's your avalanche?
Avalanche. I'll give it a 5 out of 10.
I'd say yeah. I think I'd say 4 or 5 out of 10, just because I feel like it causes more questions than answers. Like, why was everything in the tent still so organized? Why, like, and I guess that if they left in a hurry, how was everything organized?
Right.
So I don't really know.
Yeah. So it's like if we can piece it together, and they obviously made it to this point, set up camp, all were inside the tent, got all cozy, took all their shoes off, lined them up, which makes sense, right? You don't want to have any water.
Yeah.
Like, makes sense. They're doing that. People are eating.
Yes.
Actively eating.
But they also didn't light their stove. Because some people were saying, like, maybe it was a gas leak or something that affected them, but then, or something. I don't know. They're saying something with the stove, maybe it scared them. But the stove
was never lit
that night.
But then how? So what were they even eating?
Right? I don't know. Maybe dried meat, like jerky or something. I don't know.
That could be.
Yeah.
And then they just full took off.
Yeah. What do you think, Zuko?
Hi, Zuki.
Meow.
Yeah, I mean, I really do think, hey, maybe it's a combination of all the above.
Yeah.
The perhaps an acute radiation, infrasound, and an avalanche all at the same time.
And the Yeti. And the Yeti. American CIA agents.
Oh, yeah, I actually forgot about the American CIA agents.
And let's just throw the aliens in there for fun.
Yeah. Which is probably what caused all of this in the beginning.
So the aliens were why the CIA was out there.
Right.
And they dropped off a Yeti.
The aliens and the Yetis are related because they're the same thing.
Actually, yeah, Yetis are aliens.
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say. But yeah, so that's Dyatlov Pass, and this is why it is one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in Russian history.
Loki, I'm kind of spooked. It's spooky.
It's spooky. So spooky. Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy. And I tell you, I devoured this book. It's called Dead Mountain. Very good. And really gives you a lot more insight than I'm giving you into, like, the lives of these people. Yeah. Just crazy how well of a picture he paints. But it's such a strange situation, and it's very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, enticing. Yeah. Because of all of the weirdness.
All of the weirdness. The way that it is a perfect storm.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. It's spooky.
It's spooky.
Those are my final thoughts.
So, spooky scale.
Spooky scale, 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10 spooky scale. Yeah. I'd say 8 out of 10 spooky scale.
Because what the fuck happened?
What happened? And that's, I think, so frustrating. It's like when I watch Unsolved Mysteries, and then at the end, they're like, we'll never know. I'm like, oh.
The point was for you to solve it!
Oh, it's right there in the name. They got me.
But bringing up Unsolved Mysteries is kind of a good point, too, right? There's so much stuff that happens that we will never know the true story. Like, the full, really what happened.
Which is how we're able to have a podcast.
It's true. It's true.
So if you guys want to tell us your favorite Unsolved Mysteries, you you can let us know at Who's Funding This Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, at Who's Funding This Pod on TikTok, or
Who's Funding This Pod?
or Who's Funding This Podcast at gmail.com. Let us know. We'll do it. We'll cover whatever conspiracy theory you want, unless we already have.
We've got a list. We're never going to stop.
I keep thinking, what happens when we run out of conspiracy theories? And
the answer is go to the Siberian mountains.
Go to the Siberian mountains and make our own.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to dress up as Yetis. I'll take photos of you. You take photos of me.
Yes.
And then we'll come back.
But they have to be blurry photos, out of focus. Yeah. And then we'll come back and be like, Yetis.
And the tunnels were dark and spooky.
They were real spooky.
No, I did not bring a flashlight. Why would I do that?
All right, guys. Well, we will see you next week for another episode of Who's Funding This Podcast.
Who's Funding This Podcast?
Deep.